Hey y'all. TikTok. Hey y'all, I'm not doing fitness. Hey TikTok. Not doing fitness today, okay? Hey YouTube. Hey Facebook. If you are on Facebook and TikTok, you should be on YouTube. Y'all know I'm trying to build up my little stuff. So, TikTok, hang around just for a little bit. This is a topic y'all want to hear. Again, I'm Coach Q. Let me finish chewing. Listen, my girl gonna get me. Let me wipe my mouth. Chic, I got it. I'm gonna get it. So, outside of doing fitness, you all, I also have a podcast, Chatted Up with Coach Q. YouTube and Facebook, this is for my TikTok people because they're not used to seeing me in this capacity. So I'm gonna go ahead and get something to drink, y'all. I had this healthy snack that Renee's over here eating now. And of course, this one will get real right. So, starting it off, thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you so much. Some of you all are sending money in, and trust me, I appreciate it. I'm so in the hole because of equipment. Your money coming in is certainly appreciated. And then it also helps Breathe Easy Foundation give back to those who are in need. So we will be delivering a care package to a young lady. Excuse me. Pardon me. We'll be delivering a care package to a young lady who will remain nameless, but her son is currently in the hospital, and he has been diagnosed with cancer, but we're excited that he's doing a lot better. And he's actually in physical therapy. So I'll be connecting with her this week to give her a care package and on behalf of Breathe Easy Foundation. So let me tell you real quick, what is Breathe Easy Foundation? Breathe Easy Foundation is an awareness foundation. We promote the importance of becoming an organ donor. So our job is to make sure that we educate people and then we empower them to make their own decisions, understanding that one person can save 8 lives. Most of you by now know my story. You know that my late husband, Derek Fletcher, a.k.a. Cage, transitioned to heaven in February of 2023. Pardon me. He was a bilateral lung recipient at UVA Hospital here in Virginia after waking up 2 weeks later from a house fire. So that's how Breathe Easy came about. And so, again, I just want to give y'all some quick statistics. 2,400 Virginians on average is waiting a life-saving organ transplant. 7% of patients are waiting for liver. 84% of patients are waiting in Virginia that need a kidney. Kidneys come about a little bit more often. And sadly, 8,000 people die each year in the U.S. because the organs they need are not donated in time. So, and then one thing that's very important that we all should note, because it could be us, right? Another person is added to the waiting list every 10 minutes. And again, one person can save 8 lives. So again, Breathe Easy Foundation, y'all. So we're ready to chat. Happy holidays. Are y'all still eating leftovers? Listen, give me a heart. Give me a thumbs up if you're still eating leftovers. What are you eating? Turkey salad, turkey pudding, turkey quiche, turkey cake, turkey-ish? What are y'all eating? What are y'all still eating? I like dressing. I'm not really a meat person. I don't do ham and all of that. So I'll do like some greens and potato salad or something. But if you're still eating your turkey dinner from Thursday, put it in the comments. I don't really do leftovers, so if y'all really eating from Thursday, okay? Our topic, grief. Look, they're like, yeah, made some rice with that turkey, made some gravy, and made a whole different meal. Okay, so the topic today is navigating grief and loss. And the reason I picked this topic is because so many people I know have lost loved ones around this time of year. My admin, now that she shared it publicly, just lost her father on Father's Day. But she lost her uncle, not Father's Day, I'm sorry, on Thanksgiving. Lost her father on Thanksgiving. Renee looked at me like, Father's Day June. She lost her father on Thanksgiving. But she also lost her mother some years ago in November, and she just recently lost her uncle in November. So November, the month that we coin as a thankful month, is time of loss. And then I have a lot of friends, unfortunately, that have lost their husbands, right? And as I thought about it, a young lady, shout out to Peaches, Sarada Fox, she shared on Facebook this morning that, it's tough because she lost her mom around this time of year. And, I always try to tell people when you're navigating grief and you're trying to be relatable, if you say, hey, I lost my mother, you be like, yeah, because I lost my dog. Oh, yeah, because I lost my cat. Or yeah, because I lost my brother. Each loss can be different. And so it's important to pause, empathize, and let that person have its moment. I'm sure that's tough, versus, in their moment, you now are trying to tell your story. So I always try to encourage people, give that person a moment, right? I don't know what TikTok is doing. I'm new up there with TikTok, y'all. It's trying to get me to slide up, y'all. TikTokians, what do y'all know do? It says slide up. Swipe. Sorry, YouTube. Swipe. I don't know what that is. Okay, so hopefully it's working. YouTube, can y'all still hear me? Hopefully y'all can. Okay, so good. She's giving me a thumbs up. She can hear me. So I had friends this year who lost their husbands, some last year. But I want people to understand that grief isn't just the death of a loved one. Loss is not just the death of a loved one. So we're going to be covering the whole gamut of it. Because again, I'm conversing with people right now who are going through things with losing a husband or a wife through divorce or through separation or losing a child. Because they're maybe not be communicating with them, or losing a job, y'all. So there's so many things that can relate under this. But let me go ahead and give you some facts, y'all. I came loaded and ready. But we want to make this a conversational episode. So please, if you have questions, if you have comments, please do so. We have some moderators out there and some people who are managing all of our social media, our YouTube, our Facebook, and our TikTok. And if you see something fly across, that's just probably the nuts I put in my mouth before this podcast. I won't do that again. So what is grief? Grief is a natural response to loss. It's the emotional suffering you feel when something or someone you love is taken away. Often the pain of loss can feel overwhelming. You may experience all kinds of difficult and unexpected emotions, from shock or anger to disbelief, guilt, and profound sadness. The pain of grief can also disrupt your physical health, making it difficult to sleep, eat, or even think straight. These are normal reactions to loss. And the more significant the loss, the more intense your grief will be. Coping with the loss of someone or something you love is one of life's biggest challenges. You may associate grieving with bereavement, the death of a loved one, which is often the cause of the most intense type of grief. But any loss can cause grief. So I wanted to pause there because even as I begin to research this topic and I'm navigating my own emotions during this season, so this is the second Thanksgiving without Cage. And you ask my family, I slept. I started eating, made a plate, didn't even eat it all. And I said, I'm going to lay on a chair for a second. And then when I woke up, everybody was there. They were playing right, left, right. Y'all ever play right, left, right or something with quarters? I got a gambling family, bless their heart. And they had my son over there. And then they moved it up to $3. And I told Jordan, Mom, one more. I said, see, this is how people lose their whole Social Security check. Boy, you're not losing this whole Social Security check we just got for this month. I give you $6. That was it. But I didn't even realize that fatigue, even though I can be exhausted because I do a lot, I was also mentally fatigued. Subconsciously, I'm missing my husband. I'm missing that companionship. And even though you're around people, you can be around people and still be absent. And that's the hardest thing. And then you try to be engaging. And my husband loved Thanksgiving. He loved to eat. And so that was tough. And then the other part, which I want to say out loud, when you look around and you see everybody else lovey-dovey and everybody else coupled up, all my nephews are married or engaged. It was my mom's anniversary. So things like that is also hard. And you want to be happy, but then you're sad, then you miss them, then all those things. And so what I've learned to do is share my story, talk out loud, hence this topic today. So I want to talk about the importance of not staying in silence. If you're not feeling okay, if you're feeling something emotionally, say it out loud. And then the other thing that helped me was I reached out to other people who had lost their husbands or lost their parents or someone and was like, I know today is tough. What are you doing? What are you cooking? What are some of your favorite memories of them? So let me also share some different things that can cause grief. Like I said, the death of a loved one, death of a pet, divorce or relationship breakup, loss of health, losing a job, losing financial stability, a miscarriage, retirement, loss of a dream, a loved one with a serious illness, loss of a friendship, loss of safety after a trauma, selling your family home. So when I begin to think about this, and again, thinking about my friend who now has to navigate some decisions regarding, losing a parent, if that's the home you grew up in or the home that you're used to taking care of your parent in, you're not only losing an individual, you're also losing that stability or leaving a job. It's tough to leave a job or to make those decisions to leave a job, right? Losing friendships, dreams. And sometimes it's hard to really navigate all that individually. So we need help, right? And one thing, I don't care how tired I am, if my mind is bogged with stuff, I can't sleep. I may doze off, but if your mind is still going and thinking, that sleep is like for naught. You get up, you're exhausted, or you're up in the middle of the night, and then what do? We go to social media or we go try to cope with it. But whatever your loss is personal to you. So again, if you are experiencing loss, find somebody who's a good listener where they can just listen. And again, you don't have to feel like, well, I don't want to talk to such and such because I don't want her to think that I'm weak, or I don't want to, get a therapist because I don't want them to think I'm crazy. Y'all, therapy helps. Therapy really, really helps. And if you have a good therapist, most of the time, they're not solving your problems. They're allowing you to talk out loud, and then they're restating what you've already told them. We call that the drive-through method. But have you ever lost a pet? Like Boogie is my dog. Y'all saw Boogie last week if y'all were up here. And that dog gets on my last one. I ain't like Chic, who dress my dog, wipe my dog feet off, spray her breath, and comb her hair, and all that other stuff. Maybe if it was a girl dog. But if anything would have happened to Boogie, y'all, and I used to didn't understand it when people was like, her pet died and they didn't come to work. Y'all, my dog is my everything, And so the reason I say that out loud, we don't want to discount someone's loss of an animal just because it is a pet, right? And they'll be like, oh, it's not like losing a mom. Whatever your opinion is, we're not trying to compare them. What we're saying is allow that person to deal with the loss of whatever it is. Don't compare it. Oh, well, at least it was just your dog. I lost my mom last year. So again, the best way as a listener, to help someone is just to listen, nod, and be okay with awkward silences. Because a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I'm not looking for them to solve or anything. They'll be like, I was just in here talking to Nikki, and I probably told her the same story 20 times. And my mother-in-law, we went down this weekend to see them, and I was telling her a story. And, she's older. So they say what they want to say like babies. And I was like, yeah, I said, and I remember, and after I finished, she was like, yep, you told me that 8 times. I was like, oh, she kept count. Okay. And she didn't mean no harm, but guess what? She got it a 9th time that day. I told her the story again, and bless her heart. So, let me correct that. I was telling my mother-in-law, and she was nodding like, yeah, I told you before. It was Jordan that said the 8 time. That's the 8. Let me get the 8 right. So it was my mother-in-law who was like, yep, you told me. And Jordan was like, yeah, you done told her like 8 times. And I'm going to keep telling her about her son and how amazing he was. So again, conversation. If you have lost someone around the holidays, or not even around the holidays, or if you're navigating the loss of a loved one, go ahead and say, hey, that's me, coach, or I'm navigating it right now, or going through a divorce, or going through a breakup, or a job, whatever that is. If you don't mind sharing in the comments, share in the comments. Because again, we just want to have a conversation about what you're, how you're managing through that. I wanted to talk about some myths of grief, right? Some myths and facts about grief and grieving. One of the myths is the pain will go away faster if you ignore it. You can't ignore it, y'all. And it doesn't go away faster. It's like I thought this summer, and I'm sure the ladies in this room can relate. I thought if I ignored them gnats in my house, fruit flies or whatever they were, fruit flies, that they would go away. They ain't go away. It multiplied, honey. They multiplied. And then when I said, let me do something about it, I didn't realize how many fruit flies I had. Why am I making that relation? When you decide to really do something about what you're feeling and you talk about it and let it out, you won't even realize how much you are holding in. So make sure that you let it out, right? The fact, trying to ignore your pain or keep it from surfacing will only make it worse in the long run. For real healing, it is necessary to face your grief and actively deal with it. So actively deal with your grief, right? I also thought about my biological father, who I haven't spoken to in a while, for several reasons. And I don't even I'd be like, I don't want to be bothered with him. But sometimes when I think about it, I'm like, how is that impacting me? Because that's a relationship, right? That's what my biological dad. And Jordan said something today. He was like, who's your daddy again? Baby, that 11-year-old of mine. I was like, his name is Percy Brown. Well, where he at? He's somewhere in Baltimore. And so not even realizing that he has a whole granddad that he doesn't know. I mean, he saw him probably when he was younger, but other than that. So how do you deal with the grief, losing a parent, even in that communication, right? A myth. It's important to be strong in the face of a loss. So those of us who are navigating divorce or a breakup or the loss of a job, we don't want to seem like a punk, right? You know, I left my job and I didn't realize how hard it was. Like, I miss the people. I miss working. And people's like, just relax, enjoy this time. I was like, but I miss working. And I'm up. And most of the time, y'all, I am gone from like 5 a.m, 4:45. And I might get home 1 or 2 o'clock. Like, gone, doing personal training or doing something else because I enjoyed it. I didn't realize how much or how you are to work in like a 9 to 5. So even somebody who's dealing like with health issues or someone who may have restrictions that they normally could navigate through is tough. But here's the fact. Feeling sad, frightened, or lonely is a normal reaction to loss. Crying doesn't mean that you are weak. You don't need to protect your family or friends by putting on a brave front. You know how we want to protect them? We don't have to. Showing your true feelings can help them and you. So that's why I'm always so open on social media. And I always say my new boyfriend, whoever he may be, you know, he's going to have to get used to, and I shouldn't say used to because I don't mean it disrespectfully, but there are going to be moments that I'll still grieve the loss of my late husband. And when people hear that, they be like, well, you ain't ready. You ain't ready. You ain't moved on. But what I relate that to is if you lose a pet and you talk about that pet, does that mean you're not ready for another one? Or if you have a miscarriage, or if you're unfortunately your baby, your infant passes away, or your child passes, does that mean because you talk about them, you're not ready then for another child? I don't know why we change the rules when it comes to relationships or husband, wives, or whatever. That, wait a minute, you just got divorced. You ready to get married? And I'm not telling anybody to get divorced yesterday and go get married tomorrow. But a lot of times the divorce is over. I mean, the marriage was over long before the divorce was official, right? Most of the time. But when you sign on that dotted line, it's something about it that makes it real. That's a loss. But again, you share your true feelings. Let people know how you feel. It can be a part of the healing process. Another myth. If you don't cry, it means you aren't sorry about the loss. The fact, crying is a normal response to sadness, but it's not the only one. Those who don't cry may feel the pain just as deeply as others. They may simply have other ways of showing it. So people do be looking. I know when Cage first passed, and if I was kiki ha-haing somewhere, they'd be like, and then her husband just died. Like he did. But that doesn't mean that you can't laugh, because believe me, I cried. I had my days of crying. So again, if you're just joining, I'm your girl, Coach Q with Chat It Up with Coach Q. Of course, the owner and founder of Breathe Easy Fitness Studio, the CEO and president of Breathe Easy Foundation. And we're talking about navigating grief and loss beyond just death and losing a loved one, okay? A myth, grieving should last about a year. There is no specific time frame for grieving. How long it takes differs from person to person. So keep in mind, we I know people that was like, well, Dad, I mean, he died last year or he died 10 years ago. It doesn't mean that it doesn't still hurt, right? Moving on means you've accepted your loss, but that's not the same as forgetting. You can move on with your life and keep the memory of someone or something you lost as an important part of your life. In fact, as we move through life, these memories can become more and more integral to defining the people we are. I always say that because of Cage, I'm going to make somebody a good wife. I really, really am. Because bruh had to navigate a whole lot of stuff, just like Jordan. Jordan's 11. And with my oldest children, who are 27 and 31, I learned so much from them that with Jordan now, I navigate differently. So I give him, before I would tell him, be quiet and do what I say and do what I do. I let Jordan talk. Give me your thoughts. What's your opinion? How do you feel about this? Not that it matters much, but no, I'm teasing. But seriously, I make sure that he has a voice and that he's heard because it took my older children to tell me about it. So again, you become a better individual by just sharing with people, being transparent and not being so hard. The grieving process is highly an individual experience. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. So I want to pause there. I don't know if there are comments, or if there's questions or anything, but again, I want to throw out there. What comes to mind? Put one word or phrase that comes to mind when you think about, first of all, the holiday season. That's just my question. What's the one word? And it can be a happy word, of course. What is your one word or phrase that comes to mind during the holiday season? Mine is credit card bill spending. I be spending money, y'all. Jordan reminded me, he was like, you ain't got no job. And I'm like, okay, but I like buying gifts. So my one word or words would be credit card when I think about holiday. But if I continue to be food, laughter, friendship, family. Yep, family. But, yep. But it also is, gosh, I miss my husband. So now I got to figure out who's going to put stuff together. I don't even think Jordan has anything to put together. Cooking, yay. April cooking? April cooking. What is April cooking? Who put that? April, like the month April? Cooking? Oh, April cooking. That's Miss Connie. Was that Miss Connie? Yes, April is her sister cooking. Okay, got it. April cooking. I got it, Miss Connie.
Karen says family.
Family. Let me ask another question. How do you deal with your grieving process? How do you deal with it? What are some of the things you do to navigate the loss of whatever, whether it's a loved one, a pet, a relationship, a job? Put in the comments, if you don't mind, some of the things that you do. Excuse me, y'all. She gonna give me these tissues. Let me tuck my tissue up here like they do in church. Like Big Mama did, because she could see this tissue on this table. She gonna come over here at me. Have they said, how do you deal with grief? Karen, Connie, how are y'all dealing with it? It's been some years. How y'all dealing with it? Matter of fact, Karen, how do you all deal with now having to sell your family home? What are some of the things you do?
He said, have a good cry, then pick myself up and remember the good times.
That's it. Have a good cry and pick yourself up and remember the good times.
Susie Osbury says she tries to stay busy. Karen says she thinks about good times with the person. And last versus be sad.
Right. So Susie is my middle son's sister. Middle son's father, sister / cousin. And y'all know in 2023, I not only lost my husband, that was Jordan's dad, but my middle son lost his dad 4 months apart. So that was tough. And neither of them were we expecting. So it wasn't like either of them were in hospice or they were deathly ill. They were unexpected, right? Even though my husband had a bilateral lung transplant, it didn't mean we expected him to die at that time. And it happened. I just had a conversation with him, but he went to sleep. He transitioned to heaven. And with my middle son's father, Larry, rests in heaven as well. His was violence, right? And it was unexpected as well. So that's hard because you feel like you didn't get a chance to say goodbye, So do y'all feel like there's a difference? And the reason I ask this because we have information on it. Do you feel like there's a difference when you have an opportunity to say goodbye? What I mean by that, having a loved one in the hospital where you have to make the decision, or having a pet that that's descending. Miss Connie, you experienced that as well. Do you feel like how you navigate or how you prepare for the loss is different when it's kind of expected versus unexpected or sudden? Because to me, I don't care how much I know about it. I think it still hurts the same to know that, I could lose that individual, or I could lose that pet. I can't even imagine. And most animals, you may find them, but most of the time they descend so much you have to make the decision. And that's the hardest part, Hard is, just having to, or make the decision to do it. And you want to hold on to that individual instead of unplugging or pulling them off of something. Or you have a comment, Renee, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, if I could say something about that, it's very difficult to make that decision, but then, now you have to take your fur baby to the vet where you pretty much sit there, and when they euthanize them, you're with them and you're watching them take their last breath.
It's devastating.
That's devastating.
And you can't even imagine, could you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't even yeah.
I mean, you're to pieces. I mean, just sitting in there.
Because our pets are a part of generations. It almost seem like, to grow up with the kids, and they, they're around 12, 13 years. I always think about Boogie too, because Boogie was here before Cage. I remember he was a puppy and he thought he could let him out so he could just use the bathroom, and Boogie ran and my husband couldn't get him. Y'all, so all he wanted to do was find Boogie before I got home from work, and he didn't. And that brother was riding around like, please let me find this dog because this woman going to leave me. And I would have. And somebody obviously brought Boogie back home, but I can't even imagine. And with my smart child, bless his whole heart, he's like, Mom, Boogie is in fourth quarter. That's what he said. He's 13 years old. And he's like, that's the average age. But his parents live like 19 and 20. And that's a long time for a dog. That's really a long time for a dog. So we'll see. And I always say Boogie has some siblings, like my brother and sister-in-law. Their dog came from a different litter, but he's older. And then her aunt has a dog, so I'll be like, they still around. Like, Boogie, hang on in there. And then he's so ornery anyway. They always say the mean dogs, like, they hang in there. They live a long time. But listen, sometimes people don't talk about their emotions. They don't talk about the things that may trigger their grief or their sadness or anything like that. And sometimes people just want you to just show up. Just show up. And just be there. And like I said, listen. And don't be like Jordan, no matter how many times you tell your mother-in-law the story, don't be like, you done told her that 8 times. But here's some things, some physical symptoms of grief that we often think like it's strictly emotional, like when you're just crying. But here's some other things to know that people are dealing with grief. Fatigue, nausea, weight loss or weight gain, aches and pains, insomnia. That's the thing. Like, I never even knew what that was. Like, okay, I can't imagine being sleepy and can't go to sleep. But people who deal with insomnia doesn't mean that they're not sleepy. They just can't, like, they're up. And there's some very serious cases of that. But keep in mind, a loss of mobility, loss of function. I think about my mom a lot, who was used to moving around, and you can't just pop up anymore. She just can't do the things she used to do. And that is, you grieve the person you were, right? I'm going to say this. I don't know if I have any widows. If there are any widows who are listening and want to chime in, widows or widowers. Widows are the women. Widowers, I learned, are men. I remember this, and I don't know, when I think about it, I was like, is that pretty embarrassing? Until I read about it, and it's true. Like, and don't y'all judge me. I'm just being transparent and honest. Like, even in the midst of my crying and, oh my God, me missing Derek, immediately what comes upon you is want to have sex.
I know you've said that before.
Look at she like it's like she like I don't know, like I was like, how does that relate? But what I discovered is like intimacy is the highest form of worship, I call it, in the natural, right? Or the highest form of togetherness that two people can have. And so when you lose that person, all of a sudden, like sex is just the, I guess, conduit of the intimacy, or the bridge that brings you together, but it's heightened. And so what, even talking to my therapist, you have to realize is don't go out there. I always joke them, be like, because I'm talking to this guy, I ain't out there thotting y'all. Like everybody ain't getting a good girl, right? But I'm only saying that to say you got to be cognizant of misplaced emotions. So, if a pet passes away, acknowledge the loss of that pet and don't go buy 10 pets. Or if, just because you like lost a spouse or a loved one, or friendship, you just have to be careful of trying to avoid the emotion that comes along with it by replacing it. And so that's one of the things that we always joke, like, that's why we be like, men just gotta, before you blink, they got somebody else. And normally, y'all, is because of that sexual absence that a marriage brings to a relationship. And we stigmatize men, so I apologize, men. And women may be a little different, but I only wanted to call that out to say the feeling that women may have experienced may be different. It just means that they may not replace it. And so I have to really, again, be cognizant of that, because you can be so anxious for companionship that you accept like anybody, except, I do have a friend that's the exact opposite that'll remain nameless, but I know she is able to hear me because I'm sure she's listening. Now, if I, taking her stance on stuff is totally different. Like she ain't going nowhere. She protecting her heart. She ain't letting nobody in. I'm sorry. No way, no how. But guess what? That's still a part of how she's dealing with her grief. But eventually she's going to have to just let someone in. And, because sometimes we're too afraid to get hurt again, right? So there's different types of grief, y'all. And I want to just share a little bit of these. One is a disenfranchised grief. Disenfranchised grief can occur when your loss is stigmatized or you can't openly mourn. This is a good one. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it could be some of you. No judgment. No judgment when I tell you this. Some people may minimize the loss of a job, a pet, or a friendship, or like if somebody maybe had a miscarriage, like it's almost like people don't like, okay, you had a miscarriage, but y'all notice that's a major loss, but we stigmatize it. Or losing a loved one to suicide. Like people don't really, it seems like sometimes they're empathetic that they committed suicide, but there's a miss, like not for the person, like it's something there. But here's the big one. When I looked up the research, I was like, yeah, when you're that person that the family doesn't know about. Y'all know where I'm going with that. Meaning you the girl or guy on the side. And there's a loss. You can't just show up at the funeral and get people to recognize you as one of those individuals. Because first of all, how you even get here, sir, ma'am, right? And the reason I call that out, that doesn't mean that person isn't experiencing a devastating loss as well. I had a good friend who was dating a young man, and, she was a lot older than this young man. Actually, a lot older. He was in college. And maybe she was in mid-40s. And so the family couldn't really know about her. And unfortunately, he was murdered. As a matter of fact, he was a student at Norfolk State, and it was like a few years ago. And she had nobody to share that loss with. Oh my gosh. I think I'm getting blocked by TikTok. Your live contains things that some may find uncomfortable and has been restricted. Isn't that something, y'all? So TikTok, I'm going to have to log off because somebody on TikTok has reported me. I don't know if they're the other woman. Maybe. Let's see. We'll see. Listen, I apologize if you the other woman. I don't. Who reported? Isn't that something? YouTube and Facebook. I had some people on TikTok that wanted to hear, like, chat it up with Coach Q. Y'all, hey, TikTok, I need y'all, if you up here listening, I need y'all to make a comment saying hey or something, because if not, Chic, I may have to come off of. Huh? Nikki is. But yeah, it said that somebody reported and found it offensive. You don't see it. It came up on the big screen. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, I'm still on. Okay. So, anticipatory grief, that's the one I talked about earlier. As the name suggests, is when the grief develops before a significant loss occurs rather than after. If a loved one is terminally ill, for example, you have an aging pet. So we already talked about that one. Complicated grief. The pain at a significant loss may never completely disappear, but it should ease up over time. When it doesn't, and it keeps you from resuming your daily life and relationships, it may be a sign of complicated grief. So sometimes people grieve to the point where they're unable to move on. I do know a young lady that I was conversing with on social media. She lost her husband 2012. And I'm sharing this. And again, if TikTok, sorry, she still cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner for her husband. And it was over a 10-year period. And when when she told me, with our judgmental selves, I'm like, hey, is this too much? Like, she hadn't accepted the loss, y'all. Mm-hmm. There are some people who deal with their grief differently. And her following me on social media, she couldn't understand why I was selling my husband shoes and clothes and giving it away. And I sold the house and I sold vehicles. Mine probably was the far left extreme, and her probably was the far right. Like, I ain't had no forwarding address. I just everything. And she was like, why would you do that? It's like you forgot about him. And it wasn't that. I knew I didn't want to put his stuff in the garage to do what? Like, to sit. And I'm not knocking anybody who does that. So please don't report me for a violation. I'm just saying, we deal with it differently. And some people had a problem with me making those decisions so quickly. When I look back, I was like, yeah, Dad, that was quick. Within the month, everything was sold and done. And but that didn't mean I forgot about Derek. I think about him all the time. I cry. I related it. But it was my goal to bless people. Like, he had some nice clothes, nice shoes, and all that stuff. So I wanted to be a blessing. We didn't need 5 vehicles. So that was another thing. And then we were already going to sell our home. So, my grief could have been complicated initially. Like, it went so quickly that there are some things I'm like, I should have kept his riding lawnmower. We could have kept his business, or I could have did some other things. But again, you live, you learn. I do want to say, if you're experiencing complicated grief where, for example, the young lady who followed me on Facebook, where you're fixing breakfast, lunch, dinner, or you're carrying on your life as if that person is still there, please make sure that you share those stories with someone so they can partner with you to help navigate past that stage of loss. Because the reality is, we're not here to say what's normal and what's abnormal, because again, everyone is different. But there are some behaviors that we can exhibit that may not be healthy. So me running all the time, like not wanting any quiet time, my silence was the loudest. Being by myself. So I was always trying to do something. And that can sometimes not be healthy. So again, I want to make sure that people understand that they're not alone. The other thing I want to talk about, the pain of grief can often cause you to want to withdraw from others or retreat. So when I think about family and friends who've lost loved ones, and they may tap in, tap out, and they don't want to be by themselves, but then they don't want to be around people. They don't want to be around themselves, but everybody irritate them. That's normal. However, if you're that friend who's seeing that individual like that, we got to get in their space. Meaning we got to get in their face, right? we can't just leave them alone. Let me give them their space. And don't get me wrong, sometimes people do need their space, but to a certain degree, because that person could drink themselves into a space. They could medicate themselves into a space. And it's just, now that is just unhealthy. So make sure, if you know someone who's just withdrawn to the point where they don't want to be bothered, and you know that they're grieving, you know that they suffered a loss, please tap in. Do not leave them alone. And I don't care if it's been a year, 2 years, 2 months, 10 years. So the good news story on the young lady that I talked about, and I don't know if she said she would be on today because I told her I was doing this topic, so she may be listening. She no longer cooks 3 meals for her husband. She's no longer like carrying on conversations as if he's still around. She still very much misses him. And she still has his phone active where she texts it. And, but I only share that to say it took somebody, I mean, I'm a stranger, I don't know her personally, but just to share, like, okay, it's okay to miss him and it's okay to want to cook meals, but what can you do differently? And what would he say? And, you know, she was like, he didn't like waste. He didn't want me wasting food or wasting money. And I was like, think about how much you could be saving, or think about who else you can, you know, give to. And so I found ways to take her, what she was doing, and just change the narrative. So let's be around for individuals and help change the narrative. I want to pause right there to see if there's any other comments or conversations that we can discuss. I think I have like 2 cards left that I'll share. Anything else, Sheik?
Andrea Ross said, I know the stress of not being able to grieve fully because people who love me were just happy to no longer have that person in your life.
Yeah. Drea, hey, class of 91, Virginia State University. Hey, listen, friend, I know, because you lost your husband. I know that you lost one of your boos. You look, our college friend, right? That's the other part, though, that sometime, like when I start dating, Coach D, do you still watch Coach D? But when I was dating Coach D, they was like, ooh, she got someone, like, shh. Now we can stop hearing about Derek. You didn't. Like, he doesn't go away. And that's the point. Sometimes, you know, when you lose someone, people are relieved for you because they was like, oh, that joker was a cheater anyway. Or she spent all her time caring for him. And so him passing gives her more time. That doesn't negate the fact that they love or they're going to grieve for him. You know, you'll see abusive people grieve for their abuser. Kidnapped people grieve for their kidnapper who may have mistreated because they were so used to it. Y'all read the stories. And so we just have to be careful how we kind of, you know, play around with that as well. But we think that, again, replacement, it, you know, helps. And sometimes your friend be like, okay, here she come. You know, I got a friend, my blue-eyed twin, my Barbie twin. She says that she has a lot of friends who lost husbands and, you know, they'll get together and they just allow them, you know, to communicate. But sometimes they want to put the grievers over here, like the people, the widows. Let me put y'all all together. But everybody's story isn't the same. And again, I keep saying, don't report me. But when I go in these Facebook groups or these support groups, I'm like, and I'm not judging, but I'll be like, I can't stay in here. Because some of the stuff just isn't for me. And everybody's story, like I said, is different. But the goal of support groups is to support and help uplift. But some of that stuff, I was like, no, y'all. And again, I'm not saying that it's not normal. It just wasn't normal for me. And so you got to find the space, that fits you. Turn to friends and family. Now is your time to lean on someone. Y'all, the holidays are tough in general because we can't, some people can't take care of their families. Some people can't get their children what they want. And all of dealing with all that, and then you got to experience loss. That stuff is it's just difficult. It's difficult. And so chatted up with Coach Q. I just wanted to let you know that we're here, we're listening, and I myself am experiencing all types of emotions myself. And no matter how I try to be like, okay, let me text or let me have a conversation, that stuff doesn't replace. It doesn't replace. And so I've made it okay to whomever I'm talking to is like, hey, I'm going to reference Cage, or hey, I'm going to reference Derek, or I relate to this. Because the more I try to hide it and make it like, I've forgotten, or there's no moving on. There's just a transition. And that's what you have to realize, even with, like I said, the loss of anything. So, again, supporters, it may be awkward. I know my best friend Sharika, hey boo thing, when I lost Derek and her husband would be around and different things, she felt, I don't want to say bad, I forget the word you use, Sharika, but it was different, like really enjoying her husband, her spouse, knowing that her best friend was suffering the loss of her husband. And I could understand that. Like, it was hard for her. So she would cry, like, it's not fair. And as the grieving person, I had to release her from that. Like, friend, enjoy your husband. Like, you're married. Like, you can't, it is tough. But y'all enjoy it. I love watching love. But on the other hand, yeah, I was like, well, dang, I wish my husband was here, or I wish this, like, we can't help what we feel, right? But as those of us who are grieving, we got to make sure that we also care enough about our loved ones to release them from the pressure of, I know when I had my son Jordan, my brother and sister-in-law my nephew had transitioned. He was born early. And I think Jordan probably was a couple of weeks. And I went to see her. Like, it was like, do you take the little baby? All that stuff is awkward. And so you try to be thoughtful when you need to, be empathetic when you need to. But then also put yourself, that which is empathy, put yourself in that person's, shoes and try to empathize and understand with what they're going through. And like I said, don't minimize anybody's way of navigating their loss or navigating grief. It is tough. It really, really is tough. And I know after this podcast, I'm going to go up and be like, oh my gosh, what else could I have said? Or what else could I have done? All I wanted to do is create conversation for, it's okay. And you're not alone, right? And talk about it. And I think Connie said it, create great memories, cook, make their dishes, talk about them, look at videos. Renee practicing for a holiday karaoke already. She made video for Thanksgiving. She been practicing for that karaoke. And I am what was your song? What's going to happen when somebody's, huh?
Can we talk?
Can we talk? Y'all do not take Renee's song. If somebody get up there and take Renee's song, we're going to take the mic. Okay, can we talk for a minute? When that person.
Pull that mic too.
And pull it. When somebody's singing your song, you're like, that's the one I've been practicing. But no, seriously. Make sure that you're taking pictures, create memories, y'all, because, again, tomorrow is not promised at all. So my heart goes out to my friend Jorita, who lost her father, my son Jordan, who lost his father, my son Unique, who lost his father, Dia and Markel, who lost their father. And if there's others of you who are listening who lost their dad, we extend our deepest condolences to you. To my friends and family who lost their mothers, to my cousin Danielle and Squeaky who lost their mother, to my sister-in-law Monique who lost her mother and her father during those times, to Jorita again who lost her mother. There's so many more. To Tosh who lost her father. I don't want to miss anyone, but I want it to be to Peaches and Big Sis Cookie who lost their mother. So again, if that is you and you lost your mother or father, please type in there, it was me, I lost my mother, put a RIP in the comments. To the individuals I know who've lost their husbands, to, Tasha who lost her husband, to Darcia who's lost her husband, to, is her name Tania? What's my girl name used to come to boot camp? Tania. Remember the girl, kind of heavy set? She used to come to boot camp. Who lost her husband, and if that's you, Evelyn, who lost her late husband. If that is you and you lost your husband, put rest in peace and whoever the relationship that was. To people who lost children, to my family, to the Chesters who most recently had a loss. here recently, unfortunately, that car accident in Alawite County, on the young man who was in the car accident, to TT who lost her cousin, in a car accident. So again, if you've experienced a physical loss of a loved one, we extend our deepest condolences. So, something that is able to stay on social media to honor them, put a rest in peace or put their name and put, what in the comments. We would love just to heart it and, to hold you up during this time. Because again, I don't know all the names. And if you're listening to the replay, we are praying for you during this holiday season, but we challenge you, and to my girls, Karen and Konichiwa, who lost their father and their brother, we're praying for you. So again, if that is you who've had a physical loss of a loved one, again, we would love just to have you represent their memory by even putting it in the comment section so we can, again, like I said, heart it and help you celebrate their life and their memories. And if you can remember even any funny thing that they said or any dish, share it with us in the comments. We would love to say, okay, can you make it? How did it taste? Or if they were that one who couldn't cook, and so you told them to bring the condiments or the paper products and stuff like that, put that in the comments as well. And then those of you who may are transitioning from a relationship perspective, be it a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a mother, father, a child, what we are going to do is keep you in our thoughts and prayers as well, that those relationships are able to be mended, because again, tomorrow is not promised. It isn't. And we can all find so many reasons to blame or, to see from our point of view. But even my own personal experience, here in the last couple of days, I said, listen, more than anything, I love you. Like, let's make sure we get the record straight on that. No matter what goes on, I have people that I love, and I will not allow a devil in hell to impact that. So I care about people and I go after it. And I've always been like that, but that intensified with my husband. He was like, he'll be wrong to keep the harmony and love and right. And so that's where I am. Like, I'll take it on the chin just to make sure that the individuals I care about know that I love them. Because again, the last thing I want to do is wake up and not have an opportunity to say I'm sorry or I missed it, or for them equally. Like we gotta be able to give it, and then we gotta be able to make sure that we can navigate from it. Nothing is worth relationship. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some individuals that you just gotta love from a distance. You do. There's some people, family and friends, that I'm like, okay, hey, but I just kind of keep them at bay. I just have to. And then there are individuals that you do care about, that their close, intimate time with you matters. And so you chase after that. Love is love. But the reason I want to call that out is make sure that you do your part. Make sure you do your part to make sure that you are holding on and that you're mending those relationships, because grief and loss is hard. And none of us want to wake up and regret and shoulda, coulda, woulda. All right? Any closing things, Sheikah, on social media? Then we'll go to Renee. Yay, Nikki, that's right. Yep.
And then on Facebook, Miss Connie, rest in peace, my sister, April 2020, my fur baby Sasha 2023, my bonus dad 2023, and April by far was the best cook in my family. She could pretty much cook anything, and she said she loved you.
Oh, love you, Miss Connie. So yes, thank y'all for putting it in the comments. We appreciate that vulnerability. What about you, Renee?
But she did share that they were her inspiration for cooking. So,
yay.
That's a beautiful memory.
That is a beautiful memory. So that means you can cook, girl. What you cooking? Anything else?
And she talked about how she's learning to love and find her throughout some of the challenges that she had. She had a breast cancer scare, and so breast cancer journey. And so just learning, to find herself through it all.
I like that because you can lose yourself. That was another thing. I may have missed it up here. You can lose yourself in the midst of dealing with all of this. And so when you find yourself, baby, find yourself. So as we wrap up, I want you to understand this. Like I mentioned, turn to friends and family members Now is your time to lean on people who care about you. Even if you take pride in being strong and self-sufficient, rather than avoiding them, draw friends and loved ones close. Spend time together face to face and accept the assistance that's offered. Often people want to help but don't know how. So tell them what you need. Jorita, tell us what you need. And sometimes we feel like people should know, but y'all tell us what you need, okay? Whether it's a shoulder to cry on, a listening ear, or just someone to hang out with. If you don't feel you have anyone you can regularly connect with in person, it's never too late to build new friendships, right? Accept that many people feel awkward when trying to comfort someone who's grieving. Grief can be a confusing, sometimes frightening emotion for many people, especially if they haven't experienced a similar loss themselves. They may feel unsure about how to comfort you and end up saying or doing the wrong things. But don't use that as an excuse to retreat into your own shell and avoid social contact. If a friend or loved one reaches out to you, it's because they care. And that's big, right? Draw comfort in your faith. This is big for me. If you follow a religious tradition, embrace the comfort is more morning rituals can provide. Spiritual activities that are meaningful to you, such as praying, meditating, or going to church, can offer solace. If you're questioning your faith in a wake of the loss, take a clergy member or others in your religious community to help. Also, join a support group. Grief can feel very lonely, even when you have loved ones around. Sharing your sorrow with others who have experienced similar losses can help. To find a bereavement support group in your area, contact local hospitals, hospices, foundations, funeral homes, and counseling centers, or counseling centers. Or also talk to a therapist or grief counselor. If your grief feels like too much to bear, find a mental health professional with experience in grief counseling. An experienced therapist can help you work through intense emotions, overcome obstacles to your grieving. And keep in mind, there's also online options available. So again, you are not alone. We love you. We appreciate you so much. I know I told y'all, if I can transition real quick, that we were going to have some juicy, like, dating question topics this week. I apologize. I was going to use a word, but I know TikTok will shut me down. It's not profanity. But my friends, my chatted up team was acting all funny about not wanting to talk about their stuff through their lens. I ain't say they had to tell their business. I just wanted their perspective because we have a married, oddly enough, we have everything represented on our team. We have somebody who's married. We have somebody who's engaged. We have somebody who's widowed. I think we have 2 that are divorced. And then, well, maybe 3 that are divorced. But we got 1 that is dating. So we had everything represented so all of us can give different perspectives. But y'all got some juicy questions, okay? And we're going to talk about it next week because, Nikki, you said that. And another person I'm kind of working on, I told her she ain't got to tell her story, but she can still give her perspective, you know. And she was like, nah, she behind the scenes, so whatever. And she may be looking at me like all funny, like, nope, I'm behind the scenes. No, we will never make anybody, but y'all, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some stuff. Y'all remember last time in my few minutes, we had that person, could your friend who car broke down come stay at your house and you out of town? Could they stay at your house with your boyfriend? Nope. So, you know, again, questions like that. Or how about, you know, she was your close friend in high school. This was one that came up, Renee, check it. She was your close friend in high school. Y'all older now, and you start dating somebody that she used to date. Is that like off limits? Do you not date them? Y'all in y'all 50s now. One person shaking their head no. The other person said, bring it on. Bring it on.
If they cross the line.
So if they were intimate, you wouldn't mess with them.
Yeah, if they were intimate.
They were intimate at 17 and 18, and y'all 50. Y'all ain't even talked in 20, 25 years. But she was your girl. Y'all got pictures, prom pictures and stuff together. Y'all just wouldn't do it.
Still alive? Yeah.
Y'all, that's the type of conversations we're going to have. To each his own. Because you could be missing out on the love of your life.
That's,
I mean, I don't know. You just miss out, don't you?
I missed out.
But what if he liked you first, but she ended up getting with him? Once she get with him, you done, right? I wonder, is that culturally? Is that culturally based? So if we do have people that are other ethnicities, I want to hear from you too. I wonder, do people navigate things different? And guys, I wish I had some guys. Anyway, y'all, my time is up. Those are the things I'm talking about. But even in this room, she could no, because once they cross the line, I don't want nobody you done been with 30, 40 years later. But.
And Susie says, no, still can't, done deal.
Dang.
Okay.
Okay, well, y'all,
Okay.
and y'all, okay. Even if he liked you first and she just happened to, and it's 30 years later.
Not if I'm going to be around them, too. Like, if, no.
Like, you don't see her. Ain't like she got no kids by her. Go ahead, Sheik.
Well, first, Miss Patsy, rest in peace, Chain. She lost her daughter in 2023.
Our condolences,
And
Patsy.
our Toya, we love you. Lost my grandbaby at 8 weeks, and the hardest thing is when your child is hurting, is there's nothing you can do when you're supposed to be their protector.
Yeah. Oh, that's so emotional. Oh.
And Miss Connie said, post that question on Facebook, what you just asked.
That question, Miss Connie.
High school and the
And see what they do. Yeah, y'all. So that's what we was going to talk about next week. But I'm going to post that question, too. I'm going to post it. And y'all be open. Don't be out there judging and attacking people. Because if it was in high school, I don't know, y'all. Don't be looking at me all funny. Don't be looking at me all funny. Okay, maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. Look at her. She looking at me like sideways, y'all. I ain't listen. Listen. I'm just saying. Anyway, y'all, it's been a time. We appreciate y'all navigating grief and loss, and then that small commercial setting y'all up for the weeks to come. Now, the last 2 weeks of the year, Coach Q is taking off. I will have no weekend classes, and our podcast will not show the last 2 weeks of the year. So we have 2 more podcasts, the 8th and the 15th, and then we'll pick it back up the first of the year. Because Coach Q is trying to get out here and see if I can find y'all high school boyfriends. Since we 50. I'm joking. Look, she put boo, boo, boo. Look, if she knew it, she would say wonk, wonk, wonk. I'm just teasing y'all. Y'all gonna enjoy y'all Sunday. I appreciate y'all so much. Love, peace, and happiness. We'll chat again soon. Hey, I think that one's up right-hand corner, all the way at the top. That one down the bottom, Renee. To the right. Left. Yep, right there. All right, YouTube. You see it? All right, YouTube. We're going off air for YouTube.